low on my subscribers, so I know it's a week late from what I said, but here I'm gonna go ahead and give my Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick duel review. Was gonna wear some aviators, but decided not to, and plus the Top Gun ones I have don't stay on my head nearly too good for a whole video, so I'm gonna go ahead and just do it like this. So anyway, I'm gonna be reviewing Top Gun from 1986 and the most recent one, Top Gun Maverick. So starting off with Top Gun, the original, so yeah, gosh dang, this was a movie which for the longest time I had heard of it but never watched it, and it had been on AMC a few times, but I never really sat down to pay attention. And then one day in high school, while there was a snow delay, I watched it to pass the time, and really loved it while watching it, and definitely loved many things from the dogfight scenes up to Tom Cruise obviously in the cast, and the soundtrack was really great too. But yeah, there's many characters, but the most prominent ones I want to highlight in this are Maverick, played by Tom Cruise, Pete Mitchell, and also Tom Kaczynski, Iceman, played by Val Kilmer, along with Viper, played by Tom Skerritt. And outside of them, they're the main ones. Oh, and also Charlie, played by Kelly McGillis, the love interest of Maverick, who's a civilian contractor. But yeah, anyway, they're all the main prominent characters, and other than that, the main hook is obviously the dogfight scene. So anyway, here's all the main players. But yeah, definitely, movie definitely has a simple story, but it does work. I will admit, some of the scenes, the dialogue are a little rough, and boy, one thing that has not aged well are definitely some of the constant references to butts and all that, and how it's not even an undertone. There is definitely some almost sexual undertones in it, and Quentin Tarantino was right to point that out in the movie that he cameoed in. I forget the name of the movie, but he pointed that out, especially with the volleyball scene set to Kenny Loggins playing with the boys, even though I find it funny the scene afterwards is the love scene with him and Charlie set to Take My Breath Away. And that's one thing I gotta say right now. Wow, the way they incorporated the love theme in it. It's a good song, but it got a little annoying how about 3 consecutive scenes you hear just the music of the song building and building and building. I'm like, okay, really? Is that needed? Like, really? Which then reaches its crescendo with when Maverick and Charlie have their love scene. But yeah. Though it was definitely interesting for the scene where Maverick is like trying to ignore her because he's just like having a bit of an attitude, because that's his whole thing, is he's rogue and likes to go against the grain and be a Navy aviator pilot by his own rules. But yeah, funny how, and awesome also how he's just driving out on his motorcycle and Charlie chases him in the car and almost causes a wreck while doing it, and then they end up going back to her place and yeah, doing their thing. But yeah, definitely, and also the scene's fun too with Maverick driving his motorcycle, trying to see if he can outbeat a jet that's to the side of him, so really love that scene also. But yeah, many of the dogfight scenes are definitely filmed great, and it sure is interesting knowing how they filmed all this, considering when it was filmed in the mid-1980s, and also the political tensions and how in both movies no country is identified, but you can kind of put 2 and 2 together. So anyway, I guess here's some shots from the aviator dogfight scenes. But yeah, based on the colors and everything, I'm pretty sure you can tell that the enemy is obviously Russia, even though throughout the whole movie it's always they're just called the enemy. And never directly stated, but that's always what is said every time. It's like the enemy is out there, but never directly stating it. Oh shoot, I almost forgot to mention it very well. For his role in this story, it's good from this, even though his impact isn't all that much. Goose. So yeah, anyway, Goose being his best friend, his wingman, and definitely a pretty awesome character. Also, some fun facts too. The actor who played him, Anthony Edwards, I guess for a while the actors were up in these jets because they didn't actually fly it. It was the actual pilots of the Navy who did it, because the Defense Department wouldn't allow just normal civilians to fly their really expensive jets. Anyway, I guess he was the only one who didn't vomit while in the cockpit. Just about everyone else did. But yeah, gosh, how some of these scenes were filmed is just amazing. Had to have some clever cameras pinned to all of them, and for all the explosive scenes, it was all just like models and whatnot used. And I guess some of them were so convincing the Defense Department thought that the jets were blown up for real, and that Tony Scott, Ridley Scott's brother, like legitimately did it, and they were thinking that he committed a crime and they were about to punish him. They're like, oh shit, it was just damn good effects. But yeah, I guess some of the scenes of Maverick and all the other pilots like talking while in the cockpit were unusable from their vomiting and whatnot, so they had to create a really clever rig and use the same like projector technology used to help give the illusion that Christopher Reeve's Superman was flying when he was flying in those movies. So yeah, definitely pushing the boundaries of the effects of the time. And also nice to see when the big moment happens, when Goose dies, how it affects Maverick and how he is just distraught and not really wanting to even graduate in his Top Gun class, because these are the best of the best pilots for the Navy. And yeah, frickin' gosh, it is definitely real heartbreaking when you see that. But you see Tom Skerritt's Viper convince him to graduate, and him and Iceman end up succeeding in the mission where they were trying to rescue some fellow naval aviators behind enemy lines, and it's really nice. Oh, and the actor who plays Mr. Strickland is one of the commanding officers. Always loved that. Oh, and Michael Ironside, the voice of Darkseid from Superman the Animated Series and Justice League, is also one of them, too. I really like that detail. Oh, and he's also in a lot of Paul Verhoeven's movies like Total Recall and Starship Troopers. But, yeah, frickin' I just gotta say, definitely not a horrible movie. After watching Maverick, there are some things that definitely haven't aged well. Still very enjoyable though, so I highly recommend it. If you got Paramount Plus, watch it on it, or do what I did and just throw it in the old VHS. But yeah, very solid soundtrack. Danger Zone, absolutely great, and the way how it's used in the movie, along with Mighty Wings. That is a really other nice, awesome song. Wish it was played in the actual movie though. A bit disappointed upon rewatch, but it was only used in the end credits. Take My Breath Away is a pretty good love theme, even though the build up to it was a little bit annoying. But yeah, there are definitely some bangers, and just highly recommend the movie. Oh, and the Top Gun theme is also real cool too. I always thought that the soundtrack was only really great because of the licensed songs, but that was another solid one from Harold Faltermeyer, who also did the theme to Beverly Hills Cop, probably one of the most 80s sounding songs ever. So yeah, there is that. But yeah, I'd highly recommend this movie. So I guess on to the one that came out this year, Top Gun Maverick. So yeah, about 36 years after the release of the original, after it had been long in development, we finally got the sequel to Top Gun, which was initially going to be directed by this original director, Tony Scott. And he was even setting up development with Tom Cruise up until he committed suicide and halted the plans a little bit for the movie. But now I'm glad that they didn't stop him, because let's just say who they brought in, Joseph Kosinski, definitely knows how to make some damn good legacy sequels, like what he did with Tron Legacy. He did the same thing here with this movie. But yeah, overall, real solid film. Absolutely wonderful. And everything about this movie is just improved. This is a sequel done right, and definitely took the Ghostbusters Afterlife approach of bringing in a new cast, giving them their time to shine, while also letting the old returning cast have their time to shine. Along with Tom Cruise, surprisingly having a nice, mature performance as Maverick. I mean, he still has the arrogant attitude and everything Maverick had, but he has matured, as you can tell, from Goose dying. And among all the new characters, the main ones I want to focus on, who probably get the most development, are Bradley Rooster Bradshaw, the son of Goose, and also Natasha Phoenix. She's also another one too. Oh, and also Hangman, and also Maverick's new love interest. I guess him and Charlie broke up in between, because this movie is actually set a good 36 years after the original, because they reference some more modern wars that Maverick fought in, like Afghanistan and Iraq. Anyway, this is Penny Benjamin, the Admiral's daughter that was name-dropped in the original, played by Jennifer Connelly. So here they all are. But yeah, definitely a real solid film, and just like the original, had a real solid cast, and a lot of the commanding officers are played by some pretty badass actors, like John Hamm being the main one, who Maverick kind of has a bit of a rivalry with, but as the movie goes on, they end up having a mutual respect for one another. And, oh yeah, also... Shoot, I also forgot Tim Robbins had a small cameo. His cameo isn't really anything of note, though. He kind of just drops in and out. And it's also kind of like Ed Harris in this movie. He has a couple scenes in this movie, and then he's gone. He's great while he's in it, though, so I'll give him that. But, yeah. There's also some real solid development from Maverick I like, too, where throughout the movie he's always saying, "Goose, talk to me." And kind of like, too, how he feels like... Brewster Bradley is his son also, since Goose is gone and he had no kids up to that point. And also I do like how this time around he's definitely more concerned about the families of all the pilots that he's training, as now he's an instructor for the Top Gun, as he, just like in the original, does a mission that goes against his orders and gets sent to Top Gun, and this time it's flying his jet to go to Mach 10. And also like the theme too of how pilots versus drones is another thing too, where they're all like, soon we won't even need pilots because they don't need to go to the bathroom or do anything like humans need. But I do like how Maverick is like, yeah, we're going to show you why, and this movie definitely does why. You still need the human in the cockpit, and you can't just rely on a drone. But, yeah, anyway, definitely really like that, and this movie starts off in the best way with Danger Zone again, and the jets taking off, so definitely really like that. And, also, we find out, too, that Maverick pulled Bradley's papers when he was enlisting to the Naval Academy, so it set him back for a while, and that's why Bradley has huge resentment towards Maverick, and he does also blame him for his father's death, even though he was cleared of all wrongdoing from before, as the Navy court found out from the investigation, even though Bradley doesn't see it that way. But yeah, it is nice seeing Maverick show up, also all these young pilots too, and also Hangman kind of has the same Maverick attitude, and I do kind of like the parallels. How Maverick hits on Charlie, only to then find out she's his instructor in the Top Gun. He's like, oh shit, and then puts on his aviators. And same thing happens when Maverick is the instructor, when he gets kicked out of the bar, recreating the Great Balls of Fire moment, as Penny has a new bar that's hers, right near the military base where they're at in California. But, yeah, frickin', oh gosh, it is just so awesome too, and I kind of like how Hangman does have some insight at some moments. He can be a dick a lot of the times, but he does have some solid insights, and he does pull through in the end, which I will get to. But, yeah, anyway, the main objective for this one is going after, once again, another unnamed country that violated a NATO treaty, trying to make nuclear weapons, and has all the materials. So it's almost like the Death Star run, but on Earth, and they have to hit this one particular target and destroy it, bring it down, and that's what they're all training for. That's what everything is leading up to. But yeah. Now, before I get into all that, I definitely want to cover Maverick and Penny's relationship. So yeah, Maverick and Penny, I guess they dated before, and every time Maverick and them would be connecting and whatnot, but he would always go back to his naval duties, and it would always end up in heartbreak, and I guess she married another guy and had a daughter, and now she's divorced, single again, and her daughter is kind of disappointed with how many times she's had her heart broken, and really like the nice scene too, where Maverick and her are reconnecting after many dates, and after also, I guess there's a rule at the bar where you can't set your phone down on her at her bar or disrespect the lady or the Navy. Otherwise, you gotta pay for everyone. Oh boy, a bar like that would really suck to go to. But yeah, and he couldn't pay for it initially, so he had to go back, get the money, and pay her back. And yeah. It is also nice too when they're reconnecting, and then her daughter sees Maverick leaving their house, and she just says, "Don't break her heart again." But yeah, anyway, that also does lead to some nice development where Bradley and Maverick have some tension. Bradley and Maverick have some tension over their over what he sees as the killer of his father, and also just them trying to do that, Maverick trying to get them all ready for this highly dangerous mission, because the area is heavily guarded, and some were even wondering if it could even be done. And as everything trains, and there's even one accident that happens where birds hit the jet that Phoenix is flying in, as she's trying to help Maverick and Bradley also throughout the whole movie. And she ends up almost crashing. She ejects just in time. But yeah. And while this is going down, Iceman is having... his throat cancer came back, and it's getting really bad. And I guess he became an admiral in between movies. And it's a big reason why Maverick was able to have his big career advancements, because I guess everyone else hated him. But Iceman always vouched for him, and Maverick's having some doubts about if he can even continue. And it is nice too when you see Val Kilmer show up and he like types on his screen everything he's telling him, and he does get a say about 3 lines saying, "You got this, Maverick, and it's time for you and him to let go." It's just real nice tribute. And did not think Top Gun could get me emotional, but it definitely did that, and you feel it when his character dies, and Maverick's even more uneasy. And while this is all going on, he's made the team leader of the mission that's coming up. So, yeah. Just one thing I want to highlight before I get into discussing the actual mission. Really like the scene where they're playing beach football as all the recruits, or not all the recruits, all the students are supposed to have a team bonding activity, and John Hamm isn't really liking it. Viper, he's all like, or Cyclone, that's his call sign. He's all like, "What? You're supposed to be doing some bonding, like drills, whatnot." He's like, "Well," and Maverick's like, "Well, the team's connecting here. They're building their chemistry. Let's go ahead and play. Let's just let them play." Really like that, and the One Republic song is also really awesome. Just like Lady Gaga's Hold My Hand, definitely a solid love theme, and at least up there with Take My Breath Away, maybe better. But both really great. And also like how it's used one time to set the mood, but it isn't like overbearing, like, or not overbearing, but just mishandled a bit like the previous love song Take My Breath Away was used in Top Gun. So I guess anyway, on to the big tamale, the final mission at the end. And I guess my cat wants to join in on this video as I talk about this mission. Anyway, on to the final mission. So yeah, 4 of the students and the team leader go on this mission, while while there are others in reserve for if they are needed. So the mission begins in a real solid build-up, along with Maverick's fellow commander who's been with him through it all. Real nice scene with that. And also, Bradley's beginning to forgive him, and like how he says, we'll talk about it afterwards, even though you're not sure, due to how the mission is. And this movie does kind of set up Maverick to have a dying, a heroic arc type moment, and you definitely feel it. At least the first time you watch this movie. Once you know, the impact is a little bit not as shocking as it was. But nonetheless, though, definitely a real solid build up there. So yeah, mission begins. They begin their assault, as Maverick showed them that it can be done. Bradley's really beginning to side with him, and it begins. And all the really advanced jets, because I guess the F-14s that, or they weren't F-14s, but the jets that this Navy had were the best that that Navy had, but they had some even more advanced jets also that could destroy them easily, and in a dogfight they would lose, so they were trying to avoid that to get in, bomb the nuclear plant, and then get out. But yeah, anyway, as this is going on, there are some hiccups in the descent, and a missile's being shot at Bradley as everything's going on, and Phoenix is trying to help best she can, and frickin' Maverick gets blown up, and they don't know if he survived because they didn't see the parachute, but he does. And Bradley ends up going to save him, following some advice he gave him before, when he said, once you're in the cockpit, don't think, just do. And it is nice where Maverick's yelling at him when he tries to save him, saying, "What were you thinking?" He said, "You told me not to think." And they end up going behind enemy lines to go get the F-14, the old jet, even as Bradley says it, to escape and get back to their aircraft carrier. But yeah, it leads to a real nice scene where him and Maverick are working together to get the jet all back up and running. And it does end up going, but they end up getting spotted by those same two jets, and they're all trying to blend in with their little hand signals, and then they're like, oh shit, they're on to us, which leads to a real awesome dogfight in many moments where Bradley calls back to him when he says it's a dogfight. He's like, it's not the plane, it's the pilot. And gosh dang, just really freaking intense, and Maverick's able to take down one jet, but the other one is catching in on them as they're about to get to the aircraft carrier. And it is looking like this could be the final hour for both Bradley and Maverick, Pete Mitchell. And he's trying to escape Bradley, but the parachute, the ejector, isn't working. And as that's happening, Hangman shows up in the end, sent in to save them. Like, he wanted to go in initially to help out the mission, but this time around he gets sent in and pulls through, ends up saving them, and yeah, it just leads to a real nice embrace between both of them. And Bradley and Maverick end up being a pseudo father and son now, as they're working on the plane that Maverick had been working on for a while. That was Tom Cruise's plane in real life. And anyway, freaking just real sweet, a nice thing. And also Maverick's trying to go back to the bar to meet up with Penny, and she ends up surprising him and goes with her daughter to go to the hangar. And right when he gets the jet ready, leads to when you hear the love theme that Lady Gaga came up holding my hand. Real nice. They have been built up just the right amount. And just overall very satisfying ending to this movie. So yeah, definitely really love this movie, and this was definitely a sequel done right, with the way the story was advanced, along with the characters, and the soundtrack too. Had the right balance of playing the old songs with Danger Zone at the start, but didn't like overly use it, which was really nice, because I was hoping they weren't just gonna stick to only Danger Zone and leave it at that. So I'm glad that they had some variety. And yeah, just overall really solid film, and both of them. And Maverick is the one I love more now, but Top Gun is still great. And all I gotta say is, I know Tom Cruise is busy with the next 2 Mission Impossible movies and a few others, but I sure hope we do get at least one more Top Gun movie, and it does have to have Tom Cruise in it. I know they were kind of setting up Bradley to take his place, maybe even Hangman, but I still think Tom Cruise should be in it. Though this movie does kind of have his arc of being done with the Navy, I think one way they could probably accomplish this is maybe Maverick could get a promotion and finally be an admiral, so he doesn't have to actually be in the cockpit. He could just be an admiral, and that'd be the nice way to take the story. But nonetheless, really love Top Gun Maverick, highly recommend, and watch it on Paramount Plus or wherever you can. So anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and peace!